What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So lots of news to go over this week, lots of exciting stuff. I apologize for the change of appearance here. I'm currently in a hotel on the road, and so that's why I'm filming this here instead of in my usual office. But anyway, lots of exciting stuff to go over. First off, a little bit of disappointment, from the Tokyo Motor Show is the main thing this week. And so at the Tokyo Motor Show, it was rumored there was going to be some reveal of a future BRZ or 86. That turned out to not be true, but we do have something for Subaru fans to get excited about because Subaru revealed the new Levorg, and it's a prototype, but they say it's going to be on sale by the middle of next year in Japan. So this is just for Japan, but this basically, the Levorg in Japan usually looks just like the WRX, just in wagon form. So the front end you're seeing here on the Levorg most likely is the new WRX front end, and I think it looks pretty good. I'm pretty excited about it. You guys have to let me know in the comments below what you think about it. As far as mechanical stuff, they didn't get too detailed. They also didn't show us the interior, so there's no hints yet as to what that new interior could look like on the new WRX, but they did say this car has a new 1.8 liter turbo flat 4, and that's an engine that they say has strong torque. And that's all they said about that. Those are the no details. It's most likely that we'll get the FA20 carried over into the new WRX here in the States. But, maybe they'll try and get a little more fuel efficient with the 1.8. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, interesting to see that. For some other reveals here from Tokyo, Mazda revealed their first electric car called the MX-30. And so it's a production car, and it's likely to be available at least in Japan next year, although there wasn't any official release date or anything. And they didn't say whether or not it's coming to the United States. We'll have to wait and see. This seems a little iffy just because the battery size is fairly small. But first off, I think it looks pretty cool. I don't know, let me know again what you think in the comments. But, I do like the look of it, especially the fact that it has RX-8 style doors there in the back that are hinged in the rear and kind of open out. So it's kind of a coupe, kind of, a four-door, not a full-on four-door. And I respect them for going with that because that will probably hurt sales over a normal four-door, but it does give it a little more credibility as a sporty SUV since you have a little bit of a smaller vehicle there. Other things here, though, the interior is an interesting change for Mazda with some parts that are familiar, but the main difference is an Audi-like lower second screen there for the climate control, which is an interesting thing. Other new things are a floating center console area there, a new shifter design, which looks kind of chunky but pretty cool, and there's actually textile finishes there for the seats and cork finishes there for that center console area, which is pretty interesting. But getting back to the mechanicals, they didn't say anything about horsepower or anything like that, but they did say it has a 35.5 kilowatt hour battery pack, so range probably won't be huge. But we've been hearing rumors about them using a range extender that could be a rotary range extender, so have a small little rotary engine to kind of power it and keep it going, kind of like what we see with the BMW i3 and stuff like that. So we'll have to wait and see, but they did say that this one at least has only one motor in the front for front-wheel drive. So it's not going to be all-wheel drive, at least in its current form, and it's probably not going to be super fast with only one motor instead of the two that you usually see on faster crossovers. But could be a good city car or something. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, we don't have too many details still, and like I said, most likely it's only confirmed for Japan, at least for now. Taking a quick break from the Tokyo news, though, Volkswagen revealed the 2020 Volkswagen Golf this week, and it's the whole new Mark 8 version, and it's an evolutionary change, but a very nice change in my opinion. It's slightly longer, lower, and wider. Unfortunately, it might not actually come to the United States again, and this is because Volkswagen, they've confirmed that only the GTI and the R are coming so far. They say that the normal Golf, they're still trying to decide whether they're going to bring it here, mostly because GTI sales are the largest amount of sales here in the States for the Golf, and so doing the normal Golf might not work for them, but you'll have to see. Anyway, though, it only comes in 4 doors now as well. There's no 2-door Golfs anymore, even for Europe. And one new thing that isn't dead, though, is the manual transmission here. It's a brand new manual in the Golf that they developed, and they say it's a low-friction design to help with fuel economy. So that's awesome that they're actually bothering to work on a new manual. That's great. Other things, there's also a 7-speed dual clutch that's available with a shifter that's very similar to the one in the new 911, just with a less fancy finish. So that's kind of cool. The inside is quite a change though, with almost no buttons, and even the base model gets digital gauges, which is pretty impressive for an economy car. And there is, I think what we're seeing here though, they say there's a nicer digital gauge setup, and I think that's kind of what's pictured here. So we'll have to see what the base one looks like, but still awesome to have that nonetheless. The infotainment also gets a new layout that looks pretty cool, and hopefully will spread to other Volkswagens eventually. There's already 3 engine options available for Europe, each with 2 different levels of power. And again, since this is all just for Europe, I'm not going to get into that too much. And there's of course also going to be the GTI engine and the R engine added, as well as a GTD, which is the diesel version of the GTI that Europe gets, and also a GTE, which they did actually reveal the GTE for us and just showed a few pictures here. And this could signal what a new GTI could look like, considering usually the GTE and the GTI on the Mark 7s look fairly similar, and so a little glimpse there. But anyway, the GTE sounds pretty cool. It's got 242 horsepower from a 1.4 liter motor with electric assist, and so it has a 13 kilowatt hour battery pack for 37 miles of EV range on its own. And so the GTE hasn't come to the States in the past, but again, there's hope that it could in the future, especially since Volkswagen is so they're definitely going for electrification, electrifying everything, and so this could be a great first step. Since we don't get the ID3 hatch here, we could have this as some type of electric hatchback, and I think that would be pretty cool. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, for those in Europe, the regular Golfs will be starting to arrive here before the end of this year, actually, so ramping up very quickly, and so cool to see that. Getting back to the Tokyo Motor Show news, though, there's another cool hatchback that we probably won't be getting here in the States, and that is the all-new 2020 Honda Jazz, which we call the Fit here in the States. And so the main thing is that all versions of the Fit are hybrid now, which is kind of crazy. It's actually a 2-motor system, though, which means it's going to be all-wheel drive for the first time ever as well, which is kind of crazy and interesting as well. They also say it has an EV-only mode, even though it's just a normal hybrid, but didn't give any details on the power or the battery range or anything like that, or even what engine it's going to use. So still a lot to be determined there. There's a few other things. The looks and stuff are debatable. Some people love it, some people don't. But I'm not going to get too much into it because again, we might not get this in the States. But one notable thing is this is the first Honda to get wireless Apple CarPlay. So that could be a hint at future Honda models coming down the road that might be able to get that. But anyway, for those in Europe and Japan, it's going to start arriving in February. So cool to see that. And Lexus revealed the LF30 Electrified concept at Tokyo here, and it's the first electric car for Lexus, which is kind of a big deal, and it's meant to also preview their future design direction with the 30 in the name, referring to 2030 and what we could see in 10 years from Lexus. It runs a huge 110 kilowatt hour battery for 310 miles of range. It has 4 electric motors, one in each wheel, making 536 horsepower total, which is pretty impressive. It'll supposedly do 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, and like most futuristic concepts, this one has an autonomous mode and very futuristic interior and stuff. And one thing that's especially out of the ordinary, though, is that it actually has a built-in drone called the Air Porter, and that can fly your luggage from the car to the house or vice versa. And I'm sure it has other uses, but it's just like your personal drone for the car, which is kind of interesting. Again, very futuristic, and we'll see if something like that ever happens, but a cool idea nonetheless. Lexus did say, though, that they're going to have some type of electrification in all of their vehicles by 2025. Now, I'm not sure if that's just, mild hybrid, normal hybrid, plug-in hybrid. It's probably not going to be all EVs or anything, but, that's just their commitment that they're going towards the electrification here in the next few years. So interesting to see that concept. Mitsubishi had their own crazy concept, and unfortunately it's very unrealistic, but still fun nonetheless. So it's called the Mi-Tech or Mi-Tech, and so as you can see, it's this off-roader that has no roof or doors, but that's not even the craziest part. The craziest part is it has a plug-in hybrid setup that uses a turbine engine to generate its own electricity. And so it looks pretty sweet there in the back. Kind of looks like a little bit of like the DeLorean from Back to the Future or something. I think it's pretty cool. There weren't any technical details or specs given, but there's no point anyway since this thing is never going to get built. But it is a cool concept, and maybe some parts of that interior I could see kind of trickling down to the other Mitsubishi models in the future. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, cool to see that. Nissan revealed the Ariya Concept, and it's also futuristic but much more realistic, and likely hints at what a new Murano could possibly look like, or it could be another vehicle alongside the Murano. But basically, an electric SUV from Nissan has been already shown to dealers, so something like this in this form, is probably pretty likely. Obviously, it'll be toned down a little bit for production, but something like this is coming fairly soon from Nissan. The design looks good, but I am getting some hints of the NSX on the front end there, and the taillights look similar to the Toyota Avalon to me as well. The interior also looks fairly close to production ready, so again, this isn't too far-fetched. They didn't give any mechanical details, but a couple of days later, they actually revealed the Leaf prototype here, and so it's based on a normal Leaf, and we have a bunch of specs for this, but this powertrain won't actually be sold in a Leaf. They're just using that to develop it until it gets put into this SUV or whatever it ends up in. But it is an all-wheel drive powertrain. It has 304 horsepower and 501 pound-feet of torque. So that's thanks to 2 electric motors, and very impressive combo there. They haven't talked about battery size or range yet, but the performance sounds pretty good, with Nissan saying that combined with their new chassis control technology they're working on, they've achieved a huge leap in acceleration, cornering, and braking performance, on par with the latest sports cars. So we'll have to wait and see how it actually drives whenever this arrives in something. And there's no timeline for when we'll see this in a production vehicle, but shouldn't be more than a couple of years if dealers are already seeing stuff. So shouldn't be too far off. So interesting to see that. That's it as far as the Tokyo stuff. There's a bunch of other concepts and things, but none of them are going to be for the States, and they're like K cars and things like that. So those are the notable ones I wanted to mention here. But a couple other stories here. Ford released an official teaser video here for the Mustang-inspired crossover. It's going to be electric, that we don't have a name for yet. But they gave us a reveal date of November 17th. So that's when everything will be revealed, and that's right before the LA Auto Show. And from the teaser, we can see that it keeps the Mustang's taillight design, but does have an interesting new take on the headlights there, with the 3 accent lights being more spread out. But it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this develops. I'm kind of curious about it, but also a little nervous about how it's going to go. But there is a little bit of hope, I guess, as far as its sporting intentions, because actually a few days before this teaser was put out, The Drive noticed a little excerpt in the Electrify America. There's a press release that they put out because they did a partnership with Ford, where with Electrify America, they're going to get rid of the subscription fee for Ford owners. You still have to pay for your electricity with this future Ford EV, but you don't have to pay the subscription fee to Electrify America. Anyway, in that press release, they had this little line in it, and they ended up modifying it later to get rid of this sentence, so that kind of seems notable, unless it's just a mistake. But they said, Ford will be releasing its all-new Mustang-inspired electric SUV, which has a targeted EPA estimated range of 300 miles with an extended battery and rear-wheel drive in late 2020. So if this is true, then one, it means we're going to have multiple battery options to choose from, and it also means that there's a rear-wheel drive version. Now, I think everyone was expecting all-wheel drive, and that's probably something that's going to be available, but it would probably just have less than 300 miles of range, I'm assuming. So the max range one will be the one with the least amount of power and rear-wheel drive, I'm guessing. And so that still sounds promising, though, because if it's actually a rear-wheel drive-based crossover, then that gives us hope that this could be something that lives up to its Mustang styling. And, we saw some spy photos a while back, and it had pretty skinny tires on it at that point. I'm hoping that was just to throw us off, because I was hoping there would be a more aggressive tire and wheel setup, and it seemed kind of like it was just running like Ford Escape wheels or something. So we'll have to see, but at least with that, if that's true, that means it's not just going to be some front-wheel drive thing that looks like a Mustang and drives like an Escape. I hope it's a little more than that, and it sounds like it could very well be. So anyway, that's an interesting thing there, and thanks to The Drive for picking that out before Electrify America hurried up and fixed it. So cool to hear that. And the last little bit of thing is another thing that kind of leaked out, and so this is from Facebook page Evolve Automotive that gave us a sneak peek at the back end of the new BMW M3 this week. And while it does look a little chunky, it looks pretty cool to me. You have to let me know again in the comments what you think of that. I personally probably prefer the diffuser to be painted black instead of body color there. But other than that, I think it looks really good. And I'm sure that'll be a very easy thing to modify, and lots of people will probably change that. So we don't have any official intel on when the new M3 is going to be revealed, but it should be fairly soon if cars are already being built on the production line there. So definitely in the next couple of months, I'm guessing, is hopefully before the end of the year, we'll see something. So anyway, interesting to see that. But yes, that's it for all the news this week, guys. Let me know your thoughts and everything in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.